I'm Joe Sanak, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast, where we help you build a thriving private practice you absolutely love. And as you know, I've been trying to build a thriving group practice working just 2 hours a week. So yesterday's episode, or actually, it was last week, it was the previous episode that aired on the 19th. I talked about doing reference checks, hiring paperwork, and offer letters, and being in the home stretch with my favorite candidate. And literally, right before I just jumped on this podcast, I got an email from that person saying they are withdrawing their application. And so it's like, oh, geez, like, I thought that we had the person. I'm joining all of you group practice owners in just the heartache of trying to hire someone awesome. And as the first hire for Great Lakes Online Counseling, and I think also because I'm doing this live, it puts me in a weirder position than maybe if I was just quietly building it. And so people can snoop on me a little bit more and kind of see my process. And so who knows? I did ask for feedback. I sent an email saying, hey, you were a great candidate. Your references raved about you. Would love to hear any feedback. So that's just a big shift compared to just where I landed in the previous episode that I just recorded it earlier today, but you heard it last week. But I'm still moving forward. I still have a meeting on Friday with another candidate that I used to supervise. So excited about that person. I know them well. I think they could be a really good candidate. But as you're seeing in working just 2 hours a week, there's ups and downs that are happening with this practice. Today, though, I'm super excited that I'm going to be hanging out and talking with Dai Luden, who is the owner of Ubuntu Freelancers, who is a sponsor with our conferences and the podcast and has been a long time connection in this space. They offer freelance services in South Africa, where we've had half of our team for almost a decade. And so this is going to be our kind of onboarding call where Dai takes the reins and kind of just talks to me like I'm a brand new client. We walk through all the questions and kind of my needs. And it's, again, pulling back that curtain for you in the same way we did with Tom from Session Sites, of just showing that process of building a group practice step by step, what that looks like, all the ups and downs, all the emotional heartache of thinking that you are about to hire someone only to have them say they're withdrawing their application. So, and all those other ups and downs. So, Dai, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for offering to help with the freelance side of things.
Thanks so much for having me, Joe, and including me. Really excited.
Yeah, this is such a fun project to bring together so many of my favorite sponsors and people doing such good work in the world. First, I guess let's just start with what information do you need from me, or do you want to tell me about Ubuntu, so that just help me with you do the onboarding for me.
Perfect. Awesome. So, Joe, if you were a first time client, usually you would make an inquiry on our website. So, potentially you were referred to us or you saw us on social media somewhere, you would make an inquiry on our website. So, from there, I would already know your name. I would know the practice that you are working for. And I would have your basic information. So I would have done some snooping, and I would have done a little bit of a background just to check who you are, and know a little bit when I come into this call. But
Yeah. And
usually
just
I
to
would
be
then
fair to Di for the audience, we were just going to do the onboarding call. And then literally 2 minutes before this, I'm like, hey, why don't we do this as a podcast? So this just shows you how agile Di is to be like, okay, I'll jump right in. So it is all entirely on me for being like, ooh, we could do this as content instead of just a call. And Di, it's any unpreparedness is completely on me. So let me just say that for you, Di.
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully, I'm going to wing it perfectly. And so then you would join the call, and I would tell you a little bit about the company and how we work. So, should I start there?
Yeah, why don't we start there?
Great. So we are a virtual recruitment agency. We are based in South Africa. We have international freelancers that live in South Africa and they work for mental health practices throughout the US. How it works and why people find it interesting is that by hiring through us, there's almost like a third party buffer. So if you have any things that when you're working with your freelancer, if you have any uncomfortable conversations you need to have, or if you're not happy with certain performance, or if you want to understand what skills they have and what skills they don't have, then I am that in between person. So not only does it help for if there are negative things, but it also really helps for the onboarding. We do a lot of pre-training with our team members. We are there right from the start. So if I know from this call that your practice uses Simple Practice, then I will make sure that that team member has done a little bit of onboarding in Simple Practice so that by the time they join you, they're not coming in as a completely green rookie. And so it goes. You know, you might say we've been using Google Voice, but now we want to switch to Teams, and the freelancer doesn't understand how to make that transition. I will then step in and help them to make that transition so that you don't have to spend the time training that person to switch between certain things. All onboarding for your practice is done by you. So you are in charge of making sure that they understand your SOPs and they understand how you want the business to work. But if there's any sort of administrative side tasks to it, then that is where we help in the background. So that is who we are. Our team in general are very eager to work. They are very eager to learn. They are very, have a really great work ethic. We mimic our hours to whichever hours the practice would like the freelancer to work. So we are open to whichever hours works for you. And you get really good value for money with the level of talent that you are receiving. So that's a little bit about us.
Just so you know, I'm hearing some thumping. I don't know, just for the recording. I don't know if like you're hitting your desk or something, but it's like making a scratchy noise.
Okay,
So we'll
thank
edit
you.
that out at the 7-minute mark.
I'm going to keep my hands down.
Sounds good. I'm gonna clap just so she can edit that. That's awesome. So really, it sounds like making sure I understand my own SOPs, my own flow, but then having someone that can do the phones and all of that. So, would it be helpful to walk through kind of the tech stack that we're using for all of our different things so that we can align the freelancer? Would that be the next step, or are there other things before that?
Yeah, so best would be for you to describe to me your practice. So, what type of practice do you have? What type of support are you looking for
Yeah.
specifically?
So Great Lakes Online Counseling is going to be serving all of the Great Lakes states. So that'll be Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota. We're not going to dip our toes into New York. There's just too many regulations there. And we also Pennsylvania. And so kind of really looking around the Great Lakes, our whole focus is people post-divorce. So that would be co-parenting issues, dating after betrayal, just the grief of a divorce, working with families and kids post-divorce. So the entire focus, that's the whole specialty of the practice. We're going to be doing all of our billing and EHR through Headway. And so that'll make it easier for credentialing and insurance and all of that. So we'll want someone that hopefully is trained in Headway. Our website is through Session Sites, who they use WordPress as their backend. So there could be opportunity as we grow to have, blogging, SEO, things like that with those freelancers that you have. Right now, we haven't fully landed on which phone system we're going to use. I'm between Spruce and Google Voice. I feel like it feels a little bit unprofessional when it's like, leave your name for Google Voice and Google Voice will connect you. Like that just feels a little bit unprofessional. So I'm leaning towards Spruce, but I definitely will take your advice if you think that there's a way to do it more economically through like Google Voice. And then I think that's most of it. We're going to be doing our marketing through Fully Booked Pros for pay-per-click. But I think primarily at this phase, it's having someone that can answer questions about the practice, get people booked, get their intake going. They're trained in just like being able to help get people into their intake session for online.
Okay, that's super helpful. And Joe, what would the hours look like? Because obviously I need to find someone who has availability in the hours that you need.
Yeah, I would say probably like 10 to 4, throughout the week. Right now, we don't really, because we're brand new, we don't know for sure like when the most phone calls will come through. But probably starting out like 10 to 4 Eastern
Okay.
time.
Eastern time, 10 to 4 Eastern time. That sounds good. And then would you like, alongside the customer support side of this, would you be interested in us helping with any of your social media, or is there a need for any of that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think so. We have our LinkedIn page. We haven't set up our Facebook page. Yeah, I think having someone that's trained in social media and they can really just find resources for post divorce, that would be super helpful.
Sounds good. And have you ever hired anyone virtually before? Have you ever worked with anyone virtually before?
Yeah, so with practice of the practice, our entire team is virtual. So we have about 15 or so staff members with the team right now.
Okay, that's great because usually, when it comes to working with virtual staff, I would do just a little bit of training with the client as to how to communicate,
Yeah.
how to really get the best out of someone who's working virtually. Because if you haven't done it before, it can sometimes feel a bit daunting. Like, how do I know what they're doing?
Yeah.
And so I would work with you to sort of feel
Why don't you give me
comfortable.
that spiel? Like, tell, like, because I think it's good. Even if I've worked with folks, I may have missed something over the years and could pick up something. But then also for the listeners to that haven't, maybe for them to learn a little bit too.
Yeah, so I think if you're hiring someone virtually for the first time, it can feel daunting in that they're not sitting right next to you. So you can't see what they're doing every minute of every day. So the first thing that I say, which is a really simple way of easing your mind, is to ask the person who's working for you at the start of their day. They just send you a quick message, and you can decide, is that going to be on email or is it going to be on a chat channel. But they send you a quick message. This is obviously, I'm going to be doing the calls, I'm going to be online for the phones, but in between that, these are my tasks. I'm going to be working on this, this, and this. I'm waiting on you to give me this information so I can continue with that. And I've got this task, it's on hold because it's not as urgent. So
Mm.
they just give you a little roundup of what's on their agenda for the day. That helps remove the mental load from you going, I wonder if they've got that. I wonder if they're doing that. And then at the end of the day, they just wrap it up by saying, I did manage to complete these things. The phones were super busy, so I'm going to move this task over till tomorrow.
Mm.
Obviously, you've got your, you've got your CRM, you've got your wherever you are tracking the actual tasks, but just by someone just stating it to you without you having to go and look anywhere is really helpful for the peace of mind. Communication when you are hiring virtually is so important. So
Mhm.
when you start working with someone, a minimum of 2 calls a week. And people sometimes avoid calls because they're busy and it's adding something else to their diary. But that is so important because you build a relationship with the person. If you're not sitting next to someone, it's harder to build a relationship, to understand what makes them tick, to understand their sense of humor. And that is really only possible through calls. So I strongly advise that in the beginning you have a minimum of 2 calls a week where you're
Mm.
just checking in, your freelancers going through the list of things, any questions that they need, so that they're not having to email you or message you all week and bombard you. They're just keeping a little list, running through that, and you are then just learning a little bit about each other during each of those calls.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's mainly the communication that I punt, and then obviously just once you get started and once I know what tools you're using, then I will work with the freelancer to just remind them, just do this, just check
Mhm.
in with that, say this, say that, because that just helps to ease someone's mind. I think a lot of the time when you take on a virtual assistant, then you've got all these things you want them to do, and then you kind of not sure where they are, what they're doing, and then that brings its own mental load. So the idea of the communication is to just try and remove that so that you really do see the benefits.
Yeah, and do you have like standard SOPs for intakes that we can draw from just so we're not starting from scratch?
Yes. I can share those with you.
Okay, yeah, that would just be easier. So we're not, since I mean, man, it's been since 2017 since I thought through this stuff. So it'd be nice to like be like have at least some of those, the sides of the intake. Obviously, I as a consultant wear that hat, but then it's also like being in the midst of it to be like, okay, what's working now for intakes. Yeah, so then after they kind of do the phones, then obviously they're adding them into Headway, making sure that all the intake paperwork is done. Can the assistants can they like do reminder calls or emails or texts to like just make sure the person knows to come or get those automations set up within Headway?
Definitely.
Okay.
So you obviously want to fill their time as much as possible. So
Yeah.
whilst they're waiting for the phone to ring, there should be other tasks that they are doing. So everyone who works in our team is tech savvy. So even if they haven't used Headway, for example, they would be able to do a quick tutorial, ask someone else within our team who potentially has used Headway to give them a quick tutorial. And then definitely set up automations for you, do any billing checks, do any intake forms, any of that administrative paperwork per
Hmm.
se is falls well within our scope.
Okay. And I know that Headway has some great trainings for kind of onboarding as well. So for me, I would definitely want to just connect with them. I mean, they're the expert on their platform, so we'll definitely do that.
Great, awesome.
Now, tell me, like, say they're sick. How does that work? If they're sick and can't come in, like, do you have like a backup person, or do we co-train people, or if like, how does that work?
So it is very practice specific.
Okay.
Um, in general, for a smaller practice, we wouldn't necessarily have someone that could just step in for a 1 day sick leave, because it's not really feasible.
Sure.
But if it's something that you wanted, I would definitely be open to it. What I suggest with some of our bigger clients is that we almost have a company specific onboarding that we have
Mm.
pre-recorded, and so that every time I introduce a new freelancer to their team, they do that pre-onboarding training so that by the time they reach the client, they already know something about the practice, they know a little bit about how they work, what they do. So that would probably be for illness, that's probably the best way that we could help in that situation, is if we had to have a little bit of information about your business, like a pre-onboarding.
Okay.
But in general, if someone is sick, that we don't run an agency where there's a whole lot of people working behind the scenes and everyone's working for one, for different clients. Once you hire someone, that person is your person, and they
Mm,
learn to speak like you, to work like you, and they become your person. We don't have multiple people
yeah.
working for one practice. We find that that is a way that we can keep people more accountable, but obviously open to adjusting depending on the practice and what they're looking for.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, I think you're doing like the best of both worlds because when you just go out and you find your own person that you hire, however that is, and you train them, they're very specific to your practice. Oftentimes they're more affordable when you do it that way. But when you go with a VA company, oftentimes it's like you get the benefits of a big team where if someone's sick, then they can pop in. But then you don't have that personalized, like, this is my person that always is answering the phones, or here's my go-to person I can put on the website. And so it sounds like you're really trying to find that sweet spot between just completely hiring on your own versus working with a company. Because when you hire on your own, if someone, say, leaves for another job, then you have a month or two that you're hiring and finding someone. And, it sounds like with you, it's going to be if someone were to leave working with Great Lakes Online Counseling, that you'd have someone pretty near immediately that we could just plug in and train. So that sounds great. I mean, what else do you need from me for us to get the ball moving? Wait. I guess I had another question for the Google Voice versus like a Spruce. Have you found one of those easier to work with from a freelancer perspective?
we work mainly with Google Voice.
Okay.
I would need to chat to the team and ask them who's used Spruce. I would have to come back to you on that. And who's used Spruce and what do they think. So I can definitely do a little question on our group chat
Okay.
and come back to you with some feedback. But I myself know that majority of our clients are on Google Voice.
And does Google Voice always say like, please leave your name for Google Voice to connect you? Like, do you always have to have that like Google Voice promotion on it?
I don't think so, Joe.
Okay.
Again, let me just double check
Yeah.
with the bigger practices, and then I will come back to you on that.
Okay. Sweet. Awesome. What else do you need from me to get started other than like starting to meet the person and get them onboarded?
Yeah, so from me, I think I have taken down all the software stacks that you're going to be using. I've got the hours that you are looking for. I now what I would do is I will go through my database. I will find the people who are available in your hours. I will find the people that match some of your software stacks, that they have some of the training in that already. I will then send over a some profiles. So usually around about 3 profiles, and you will then be able to review the profiles, review the people, and then whoever you are interested in, you can meet with. And again, it comes back to that communication thing. I find it super important that you choose someone that you connect with personally, because it's very personal.
Yeah.
So it's not about me just saying this person on paper meets exactly what I think you want. You need to meet with that person and you need to feel that they match with you. So the next steps on my side is that I will go through our database. I will send you a follow-up email with some profiles. You are then able to meet all of them, one of them, two of them, however many you would like.
Yeah.
And then the process is super simple. We then get them cracking. So that's it.
Love it. Well, and then we'll get all of the like calendar scheduling and access going in Headway even before we have our first hire, I think, to have that onboarded so that they can be onboarded, getting people scheduled, then we can get that next hire going. So
Exactly.
awesome.
So before, once you choose someone, I can then also just send you an email with just like, I suggest that you set up an email, you set up a security vault. I can also create some suggestions for you so that once you get
Hmm.
started, you sort of know where to start. You're not,
That would be
you
super
don't
helpful.
land with someone and then say, okay, what now? So I
No,
will
I
help
love
you.
that. Oh, that's so great. Well, Di, if people want to work with Ubuntu, tell them where they can find you, and yeah, and we'll keep working together and keep putting a spotlight on the work you're doing.
Thanks so much, Joe. Yeah, so we are on the web,
Hmm.
ubuntufreelancers.com, and we are also on all social media. So hopefully we are easy enough to find.
Yeah, and I think the /Joe, I want to say that you're doing some sort of deal or
Oh,
something like
sorry.
that. So yeah, ubuntufreelancers.com/Joe. You get some discounts or something, special treatment.
You get some
Awesome. Well, thank you
free.
so much for being on the show. This show, we couldn't do this without our sponsors. Today's show is sponsored by Alma. So if you're a solo practice and you're looking for an all-in-one EHR, if you want to accept insurance, want documentation, head on over to helloalma.com/Joe. That's helloalma.com/Joe. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day.